I'd now like to introduce our second speaker, Thomas Abell. Thomas is an advisor and the chief of the Asian Development Bank's Digital Technology for Development Unit. His team works with member countries to help them transition to the digital economy. Thomas?
Thanks, Tammy, and thanks, Bruno, and thanks everybody for joining today. So our unit is working very closely with ESA on bringing Earth observation technology into ADB programs and supporting our developing member governments. And Paolo Manunta is part of our team, and Paolo has been working with us for a few years, and really solidifying the partnership with ESA. And we would like to thank ESA for the support. As Bruno mentioned, we've had quite a fruitful engagement. And what I'd like to just highlight the importance of Earth observation in development. So, we all understand digital technologies are increasingly becoming part of the agenda, really helping to change the development outcomes, improving, uses of technologies. And Earth observation is one of those that's most promising. And so we have a particular focus on it. And I would like to first say is, why is Earth observation important for development? I think a lot of people have started to see that it's something that's where the technology is improving rapidly across multiple dimensions. So Bruno mentioned increased resolution down to sub-meter resolution on imagery. We also have increased frequency of the data, so we can get imagery on a daily basis or even more often, which is very important to follow tracking trends and see what the latest situation is. And then also, it's increasing in spectral resolution as well. So if you go back to the 70s, we had, basically 3 spectral bands and basically red, green, blue, and you could do very little with that. But now you have sensors that are multispectral, so you're getting many more spectral bands of imagery in the same basically image result. And this improvement is kind of part of one of those exponential growth, exponential improvement situations in technology. And basically the imagery that's becoming available and the on a global basis is really unprecedented, and it's moving ahead so rapidly that it's almost difficult for the science to keep up with the advances in technology. And it's available globally. So places like Asia, where we have most of our work, and our developing member governments, and 60% of the world's population, we really can rely on that data as a plentiful source of information for our development programs. And as Bruno mentioned, Earth observation is useful across almost all of our development sectors and thematic areas, really either replacing old forms of development work like surveys, and or supplementing development work with new forms of data. So it's especially useful in governance with more effective use of land or understanding of land use. It's also very effective in climate, where we can track weather patterns and sea level rise more effectively. And then also in agriculture, where the promise of digital agriculture going all the way down to the smallholder is really going to be supported by Earth observation technologies. Another thing I think that's really important about the promise of Earth observation is the fact that if you look at big data and AI for development, artificial intelligence, holds great promise for creating new solutions, that will improve development. Things like digital agriculture or recognizing pollution sources or things like that. But for the use of AI, you really need sources of big data. And unfortunately, most of the big data sources available today are controlled by private sector organizations, whether it's financial transactions or social media or web activity. These are things that governments are very, very difficult to utilize easily because of the privacy and security issues and the fact that private sector partners are the owners of this data. And I think this is a really important point about Earth observation, that it's data, especially in the ESA case, where it's free and open and available globally, and it doesn't have as much of the privacy and security issues as personally identifiable data. Most of the imagery, of course, there are some issues of privacy for satellite data, but mostly it's not the same type of challenge as you have dealing with personally identifiable data. So we really think that this is an area that especially developing member governments in our region can benefit tremendously without dealing necessarily with some of the challenges. So we have, put a lot of effort into supporting Earth observation technologies, and we've found a lot of benefits, and you'll see some of those in the later presentations today. I think we also would like to increase the use of Earth observation. We found that our developing member governments, when they do work with us and work with ESA, they find that this is something that they want to do more of. And most of our developing member governments don't have space agencies. And luckily, it's the type of technology that, if it works for one region of the world, then it'll work for another region of the world. And many of the satellites are circling the globe so that you get automatically get coverage, in different locations. So it's very promising, and we would like to thank everybody for joining today to hear more about it. And I will then pass it back to Tammy. Thanks for the moderation.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for providing the digital angle and how it fits into our development agenda.